Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something, well, a bit unsettling.
Definitely.
This idea that knowledge, which we usually think of as purely good, can actually lead to really bad outcomes, spiritually speaking.
It's a huge paradox, isn't it? We're looking at a classic text today that draws this really sharp line.
Right, between different ways people use knowledge.
Exactly. The whole thing is framed around what it calls the afflictions of knowledge. Afachavilum.
And it doesn't just list problems, it actually identifies two kinds of scholars.
That's the core of it. The scholars of the hereafter, who are, the ideal.
And the other.
And the ones the text flat out calls the evil scholars, ulemâ-i, or sometimes scholars of this world.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive.
It's to really pull out the criteria. What does this source say separates them? We're not just talking about how much they know.
No, it's deeper.
Much deeper. It's about their motivation, their actions, their inner state. It's like a reality check on why we learn things.
Let's start with the negative side then, the warning signs. Who exactly are these ulemâ-i? What makes someone an evil scholar?
Well, the definition is surprisingly, almost brutally simple.
Okay.
It comes down to motivation. Their garaz, their maqsad, their whole purpose for learning and teaching is just worldly enjoyment, tanawum dunya, and getting ahead, attaining status and wealth, tevasu lika umad.
So using knowledge, almost like a networking tool or a business plan.
Pretty much. Using learning, writing, speaking, all of it as a sophisticated way to climb the ladder, get positions, make money.
But practically, how do you tell that apart from just, earning a living as a scholar? Where's the line? The source must give some metric.
The metric seems to be internal, the intent. And the warnings about getting this wrong are incredibly intense.
Like what?
Well, there's this really sobering statement. It says the person who will suffer the most on Judgment Day is the scholar whose knowledge Allah didn't let them benefit from. Their own knowledge.
Wow. That completely reframes punishment, doesn't it?
It really does.
It suggests having the truth and not living it is like worse than not knowing it at all.
Exactly. The knowledge itself becomes a kind of poison. The source warns, if your guidance, your hidayat, doesn't grow with your knowledge.
Then what?
Then all that learning just pushes you further away from the divine. It's like accelerating in the wrong direction.
That is. Yeah, that's heavy. And there's the analogy the text uses, a pretty scary one, about this kind of intellectual failure.
Oh, yes. The story of Balaam Bibarda. Someone given huge intellectual gifts, even spiritual insight. And his state is compared to a dog, just panting all the time.
A dog? Why?
Because despite having these divine signs, he misused them, got stripped of them, and ended up following the devil. The image is about this intense intellectual activity, like a dog panting, whether it's resting or running, but it's disconnected from any real spiritual application or benefit. All that effort just leads to ruin.
That's quite the image. Now, you mentioned hypocrisy, too. Spotting intellectual hypocrisy sounds really difficult from the outside.
It is, and the text highlights this specific type, the munafiq alim, the hypocritical scholar.
How are they defined?
As learned by his tongue, but ignorant by his heart in action. Masters of talk, maybe even looking pious.
But inwardly?
Inwardly, it's empty. Or worse, it's driven by those same worldly desires. The words sound good, but the actions, they serve the self, the status, the bank account.
And what if a scholar like that, or any scholar, hides what they know, if they conceal the truth?
That gets condemned too, very severely. The text says a scholar who hides knowledge from those who deserve it will be restrained by a bridle of fire. Knowledge isn't yours to hoard, it's a trust. Hiding it for personal gain is a betrayal.
Okay, so all this points toward the real purpose of knowledge, right? Which seems to be action, application.
Absolutely, that's the pivot point. If chastened status defines the bad scholar, then applying knowledge defines the good one.
And there's a quote about this from Sufyan as-Safri.
Yes, a really foundational idea, he says. Elam calls and invites action. If action responds, the knowledge stays. Otherwise, it leaves.
It leaves, like it just disappears.
That's the concept. Knowledge isn't static. It's like a guest that expects you to do something with it. If you don't act on it, it doesn't stick around. It's wasted.
So if the knowledge walks away, metaphorically speaking, because you didn't act, what's the internal consequence for the scholar?
That's where the punishment of the scholars comes in. Ulamânyin ukubeti.
Which is?
The death of the heart. Mephitik, not physical death, obviously.
Right, spiritual death.
Yes, the death of purpose. And it's defined very specifically. Seeking the world, money, fame, position using actions that should be for the afterlife.
Like using prayer or teaching.
Exactly. Using those very acts of piety or scholarship as your tools for worldly success. That's the ultimate corruption, according to this view.
That's a chilling idea. The death of purpose itself. It puts a whole worldly ambition thing in a stark light. It sounds like there's this fundamental conflict, a zero-sum game almost.
It's presented exactly like that.
Wow.
Total opposition between dunya, this world, and âhiret, the afterlife. They're mutually exclusive in a way.
So?
The text uses these great analogies, like east and west. The closer you get to one, the further you are from the other. You can't walk east and west at the same time.
Makes sense. And the scale analogy.
That one too. Like 2 pans on a balance. If one goes up, the other has to go down. You load up one side, the other becomes light.
So realizing this trade-off is step 1 for a true scholar.
It has to be. Recognizing you can't maximize both worldly gain and spiritual reward simultaneously, the text is blunt. If a scholar doesn't prefer the hereafter, they're judged as esiri shitander, a captive of the devil.
Wow. Okay, that sets an incredibly high bar. Let's flip it then. If those are the dangers, what are the positive signs? What marks out the ulemâ-i âhiret, the true scholars of the hereafter?
Well, the first sign, and maybe the most crucial, is integrity. Simple as that. Meaning their actions must match their words. Fili kavlim muhaliful maya. What they do aligns with what they say. There can't be a contradiction.
Right, congruence.
Exactly. The Quranic warning cited is severe. It's a great anger, mat tiakabir, in God's sight to say what you don't do. Even the prophets, like Shuaib in the text, affirmed they wouldn't do what they told others not to.
So this is the direct opposite of that hypocritical scholar we talked about earlier.
Precisely. It's not just what's in your head, it's what your life actually reflects.
And does that reflection extend to, like, lifestyle, possessions?
Absolutely. It has to. This leads to the next sign, zut, which is basically humility, simplicity, restraint.
So avoiding luxury.
Yes, actively avoiding extravagance. It's not necessarily about being poor, but about choosing moderation, iqtisad in everything. Food, clothes, housing, furniture, keeping it simple.
There's a story in the sources about this, right? Between Hatim el-Assam and a judge.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Hatim, who is known for his asceticism, visits this judge, Muhammad B. Muqatil, who apparently lived pretty well.
Had a big house.
A Qasr Ali, a grand residence. So Hatim sees this, and he doesn't directly accuse him, but he asks this pointed question.
Which was?
Something like, does the knowledge we inherited from the early scholars teach that a person's rank is shown by how big and fancy their house is?
Ah, putting the judge on the spot using their shared knowledge. Clever.
Exactly. It forced the judge himself to recall the actual teaching. Rank comes from zuhd, asceticism, and loving the poor, not from worldly displays. The true scholar's life shouldn't scream luxury.
Makes sense. Okay, what's another external sign? You mentioned the relationship with power.
Right. A really crucial one. Keeping distance from rulers, from Salatin, from government power, fleeing from it if possible.
Fleeing, that sounds extreme.
The text is quite emphatic. It quotes a saying, scholars are the trustees of the messengers, a huge responsibility, as long as they do not mix with rulers.
Why is mixing so bad? Is it just about avoiding being bribed or something?
It's deeper. It's about the impossible bind it puts you in. If you get close to power, you basically have 2 choices.
Okay.
Either you flatter them to stay in favor, which is hypocrisy,
Right.
or you speak the truth, especially the uncomfortable truths, which rulers often don't want to hear. And that risks their anger, losing your influence, or worse.
So staying distant protects your primary loyalty.
Exactly. Loyalty to divine principles over political convenience. It preserves integrity.
Okay, that's clear. Now, the final sign you mentioned seems to shift inward, right? Away from external things.
Yes, this is maybe the most definitive marker. It's the focus on amali kulub, the knowledge of the heart, the inner life.
What does that involve?
It means the true scholar is more concerned with the subtle stuff, understanding the flaws in their own actions, fasadi amal, recognizing the whispers of the ego, fasavi sinufus.
So less focus on complicated legal points.
Less focus on, say, super complex hypothetical legal cases, feridat, that might rarely happen. The priority is self-awareness, purifying the heart. That's the real work.
And this internal focus, this path, leads somewhere specific.
It leads to cultivating yaqīn, certainty.
Certainty. That sounds key.
It's called the head of the capital of religion, Risum al-Din. It's the ultimate goal of this inner work.
Are there levels to it?
Yes. The text describes degrees. It starts with just dispelling doubt, nifai shak, But it progresses until yaqīn becomes the dominant force, qalb, in the heart, totally governing the soul.
So certainty is what fuels action, if knowledge invites action.
Then yaqīn is what guarantees you accept the invitation and act on it. The source says point blank, you can only act to the extent of your yaqīn.
That's powerful.
And the true scholar works to cultivate this deep certainty that God is watching them. Always. Even seeing the secrets of their conscience and thoughts, hivasi samir.
That level of awareness must lead to
profound reverence, constant internal discipline. That inner reality born from yaqīn is what truly separates a genuine scholar from someone just playing a part for worldly reasons.
Wow. This has been quite the deep dive. We started with this idea that knowledge could be harmful.
Right. A pretty challenging start.
And what we've seen is that its value, its quality, really hinges entirely on why you seek it and what you do with it, the intent and the application.
It's a strong call, isn't it, to move past just collecting information, hoarding facts.
Run towards
genuine spiritual action, towards actually being what the knowledge points to, not just talking about it.
Speaking of being, there was one final point in the text about just how a scholar should carry themselves, about composure. Second act.
Yes, that little observation is quite striking. It mentions that when a scholar laughs, like really laughs wholeheartedly,
Right.
they lose a mouthful of knowledge from their heart.
That's an unusual image.
It is, isn't it? But it really highlights the need for a certain gravity, a sobriety, a constant state of composure, a kind of quiet reverence for the weight of the knowledge they hold.
That image definitely makes you pause. Speaks volumes about the standard here.
And that reverence is needed because the stakes are just so high. The source gives this final, very stark warning. The most feared thing for my community is the fall of the scholar. Zealot Ilim.
Why is that the most feared?
Because when a scholar goes wrong, the text says an entire world of people can go wrong with them. Their mistakes ripple outwards. They set the example, for good or ill.
So considering everything we've unpacked today, the need for action, the dangers of worldly goals, the importance of certainty, yaqīn, it really pushes you to reflect, doesn't it?
It does.
How do you make sure that your search for knowledge becomes a light for others, not, some kind of trap that leads everyone down the wrong path? What specific bit of knowledge are you going to focus on applying next instead of just consuming?